This is a transmission about remembrance, about remembering who we are, about remembering why we came here. And this is an activating transmission. This is pulling you deeper into a state of remembering. But more than remembering who you are, this is about having the confidence to know what you know, to feel what you remember, and to walk and live and breathe and sing out in that truth. I've been doing psychic readings and helping people connect with their purpose, their path, their higher self, and their highest expression for a good 2 years now. And before that, I did it in other ways, as a teacher, as a kind of creativity coach or an editor, a support person, a listener, a casual counselor in my life to loved ones and strangers. And what draws so many people to a spiritual path, to wanting to get to know themselves, to heal, to find out where they're from. You know, we all want to know, where did I come from and where am I going? What draws people to this is so often an intention, something to manifest. They see that their life can be bigger and greater and more aligned and free and abundant than it is, and they're ready to do the work to step into that. And one of the very funny things about this work, which applies to me as well, I'm laughing with everybody, I'm laughing at myself here too, is that once we start to discover these things, once we start to learn who we are and really feel that and know that, when in the face of all of our skepticism, when our ego has thrashed and kicked, and we keep being given the evidence and the feelings of love and the overflowing abundance and the synchronicities and that connection to the divine, when we really know that all of that is true and we can't hide from it anymore, what we're actually left with is this isness, this I am, this state of being, where you understand that everything is perfect exactly the way it is. So it's very funny that we come to this work with this, let's manifest, let's make something, let's change something kind of energy and attitude, which is beautiful and has a place. And I'm going to talk about what we can do with that and why it still makes sense and why we have that. Yet we get to this place where we start to see the interconnectedness of all things, where we really understand that everything that happened to us, everything that led up to our existence, and everything that happened in our lives happened for a reason, a beautiful reason. And we understand that everything's happening exactly the way it's supposed to. Still, there's this surrender, this peace, this flow, this throwing yourself at the feet of something so much bigger than you, where wanting to manifest starts to feel very, very silly, where you see this beautiful zoomed out sacred geometry, this mandala, this impossible interconnected network that's infinitely unfolding. If you know what I'm talking about, if you've been in these spaces, then you know just how infinitely complex and abstract, like an optical illusion, the grand scheme of the universe is. And you see how perfect it is, and you see what a gift, what a loving gift life itself and consciousness and awareness and relationship with each other really is. And you think, why would I manifest anything in this? Why would I want to tinker with this grand plan and design? What could I possibly offer to this grand rainbow of life? And sometimes we get to that place, and it's natural to ask questions like, well, and what's the point? If it all simply is and it happens, you know, why am I alive? What am I here to do then? What's my purpose? And for light workers, people who know they came to the planet to help, to be of service, to do something, not just to, rearrange chairs on the Titanic, not just bear witness, not just to have fun being here, but they feel like, I want to be part of this beautiful network. And they don't know what to do because it is so much bigger than us and so interconnected. And we couldn't possibly see around all the corners and twists and turns of all these interconnected timelines. There are beings, there's what we call God, this universal love force that organized all of this grand intelligence, which is natural and flowing and adheres to these universal laws and organizes through them just the same. But we think, how could I be part of this? Who am I in all of this? And these are foundational questions. Sometimes it feels silly to go back to your why, to go back to what's the point. And sometimes asking the question itself can be scary because we think asking what's the point means that the answer is going to be, well, there is no point. Or it presumes an attitude of nihilism or a negative expression of existentialism, right? What's the point? Why do I exist? Why don't we all go lie in a gutter somewhere, right? Why don't we all nap? Why don't we all go jump off a bridge together? There are these questions of, what's the point? But we shouldn't be afraid of asking these questions because so often when we have the courage and curiosity to ask, well, why? Why am I doing this and what's the point? You actually receive a creative and helpful answer. You'll actually find that there is a purpose and a very good point, and you become reinvigorated in asking that question honestly and sincerely, ready to receive an answer. Because we created this life, we created this universe to live it. So just because everything's already happened and there's no such thing as time and space, and it's all happening perfectly, doesn't mean that we don't have a role to play. And I'd like you to reflect on for a moment all the divine synchronicities in your life that have brought you closer and closer to your soul, to understanding that you are an eternal being. What people have you met? What music have you listened to? What videos have you watched? What epiphanies, what meditations have you done? What forests have you walked through? What are all these divine synchronicities that have led you to where you are? And they might be family members, they might be friends, and they all played this part perfectly to get you to where you are. And you can forgive people for any pain, any sense of displeasure that you've experienced in your life. You can say, okay, I get that you're playing this part and you brought me exactly to where I need to be. And thank you for that. Thank you for being you exactly as you are. And now imagine if we can extend that grace to ourselves. If we can look at everything we've done in our lives, everything we haven't done in our lives, and everything we're doing now, no matter how significant or insignificant it may seem to us. All of this is part of the divine synchronicity, the divine plan that we are offering to others in our lives. You are a synchronicity for somebody else. You are a lighthouse, a north star, a confirmation, another smiling face in a stream, in this concourse of these rivers all intersecting and moving together. You get to be that synchronicity in other people's lives on this planet too. And it might be as simple as you picked up a piece of rubbish at the park and that made the space slightly brighter and happier for the trees and the animals. Or maybe it's that you picked something up on the ground and you pass it to someone and said, is this yours? And you made the rest of their week so much easier because they didn't lose that thing and they weren't fixating on that thing. And so you freed them up to come into their higher expression. And we pay it forward, and there's this endless ripple effect of love throughout the universe that comes from our surrendering into this knowledge that everything is perfect and that we get to be part of that perfection. The perfection of the universe isn't the universe excluding you. It's not everything's divine and worked out and you're witnessing that. Like, you're in that. Think about when you see the Milky Way. in the sky. If you've ever had the opportunity to see that, I haven't personally. It's one of my great dreams. And I love looking at photography of the Milky Way, of the emu in the sky. But when you look at the Milky Way, or you see stars that are in the Milky Way, it looks like it's separate to us, doesn't it? It's like, well, what's the Milky Way doing over there if we're in it? And we forget sometimes that we're in it, that we're looking at it, but we're looking at it from within that structure too. And so we get these bird eye perspectives, whether it's a feeling or a vision and a meditation, or something that we intellectually understand that we're still embodying and integrating. But we get these pictures and we so often exclude ourselves from that, right? We think, well, that person is so beautiful and everybody in the world is so beautiful in their own way. But how often do we look at ourselves and go, well, actually, I'm beautiful in my own way too. How could I be excluded from that? How could I be the only person in the universe who's not beautiful? Likewise, you can see the way that everything interconnects in this perfect way. But you are part of that. You are also living your life in this perfect way. And you get to be perfect and delight in that synchronicity and that beauty. So what does this mean for your purpose? What does this mean for your light working mission? Why are you here and what's the point? These are questions you need to ask yourself, and you shouldn't let somebody else tell you what that is. Even if it's me in a reading, this is something that needs to come from within you, okay? So before you type a question into ChatGPT, before you talk to me, make sure you take a deep breath and you ask yourself, like, well, why am I actually doing this? And I was asking myself this question recently, because I've been teaching people how to channel, teaching people how to bring in their higher selves. And the more I teach people this, the more they just eclipse me and outgrow me and just do all these amazing, phenomenal things. And so I kind of sit back a lot of the time and think, well, why am I doing this? And they don't need me. They clearly had this in them all along, you know. And so are we all just going to become more and more psychic? And then what do we do with that then? And so I've been asking myself all these funny questions, like, okay, so why am I doing this? Am I the best person in this space? What's going on? And I made myself this promise when I was learning. I've talked about this a few times, but I told myself, if I can learn how to channel and telepathy and intuition, if I can open up some clairs, and if I can find out that we really can learn this, that all of this extrasensory stuff, all this magic of the universe, all of it actually is available to us, and we can practice it if we believe that we can and do all of this. And I was going to share it with the world, right? And so I get to tell people these wonderful things that I'm discovering about the universe, whether I'm channeling angels in a YouTube video or somebody's higher self in a reading. I get to share these phenomenal things. And I'm testing it, and I'm such a skeptic, and I'm always thinking, is today the day I get this wrong? You know, I get a lot of performance anxiety, and I'm very skeptical, and, you know, I'm always questioning myself. You know, am I making this up? Am I deluding myself and others? Is today the day I do a reading and somebody says, you're out of your mind, I want a refund? That hasn't happened yet, touch wood. Maybe you'll be my first. But I keep thinking, like, okay, like, universe, shush me if it's not working. Let me just follow the flow of this and see what's happening. But actually, all of you are confirming what's coming through me, which I'm sometimes not even sure about, which I'm questioning, and often what's flowing through me is news to me as well. But you all tell me, actually, that's correct. Actually, that's dead on. How did you know that? You know, you spoke to this and this and this, and there were so many synchronicities, and that was correct, and please keep doing this. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess something's flowing through here, and something's an offering here, and so I keep doing it and following that flow. And what I'm doing here, I realize, is remembering that we're all connected to the same source, and we're all waking up together. We're all remembering together. And what happens when we remember together in this space is it gives us the confidence to live with that knowing. There's a togetherness, there's a sense of community that's important here. Because on our own, we're wondering if we're crazy. We're going, okay, is this really happening here? We need a receiver. We need a listener. We need a witness. We need somebody to hear the transmission, to activate it, to be in communion and to be in dialogue about this. It has to happen together. And that's why this 144,000 collective is a collective. It's why we synced up and we have these lines of light connecting all of us so that we can remember together, so that we can be of service to each other, so that we lift each other up. And there's no hierarchy here because you're all helping me remember, and I grow and activate and go through shadow work and dark nights of the soul as I'm doing this with you. Okay, we are all doing this in service to each other. Because when we all remember together, and we all wake up, that changes reality. It's no longer an outlier, a guru, a messiah, somebody in the matrix who woke up. Because history's shown us that having one messiah, one guru doesn't actually wake up the entire planet. Jesus has tried that. Buddha has tried that. Countless other gurus in history and today are doing that already. It has a flow-on effect. They have beautiful words of wisdom that have changed us profoundly forever, but it hasn't liberated the entire earth. To liberate the entire earth, to really anchor in this remembering and to know that requires this collective energy of everybody remembering their own soul history, who they are, what the truth of the universe is, and then echoing and mirroring that back to each other until that is the agreed upon new collective reality. Okay, so this is how we all together are manifesting this new earth. It's like a mycelium network or, a counterculture running underneath the earth, this grassroots movement that solidifies and connects up underneath everything and then starts to blossom and bloom up until it is the earth and is the reality itself. So something that we can gather from this is that new earth is not something that just happens like a tick. It's something that's emerging. It's a revolution. It breathes. It builds up and up and up and becomes more and more stable every day. How do we stabilize this energy? We stabilize it by stabilizing our own knowing, by stabilizing ourselves. And I'm very lucky that I have an amazing person in my life who helps me remember who I am every day. When me and my twin flame met, we used to keep notes like the synchronicity document that we could go back to remind ourselves that we weren't crazy, so that we could go, okay, I'm feeling insane, we're making this up, we're just two deluded people who are bored or whatever, and then we would go back to this document and be like, okay, but what about this, what about this, what about this, what about this? And we feel the truth in each other because we are this close resonance, and because that knowing flows through both of us, often simultaneously, we can anchor into each other. But it's a bigger mission than this. It's not about me and my partner waking up in this lifetime, because we could have done that on any planet. We didn't have to come here to be together and wake up. We came here so that everybody could wake up together on this planet. And if you're feeling called to connect with groups, to reach out to people, to see people in person, to make your own space and your own groups and networks and communities, that calling is part of your mission. And we've just had the 8-8 Lionsgate, and the number 8 is about connection, it's about network, it's about community, it's about plural, because in numerology, in Pythagorean numerology, S is the number 1. So to go from a 7 word, like mother, for example, which is a 7 energy, and to make it an 8 word, you just add an S on the end. So mother has a 7 energy, which is, divine guidance, God, love, the healed Father energy, self-sovereignty, the creator, to turn that into 8, which is, hacking the matrix, designing reality, manifesting abundance, rewriting your soul blueprint, you just add an S. You bring in mothers. You have a community of mothers. And then all of the sudden, you're rewriting the whole matrix. You're rewriting the blueprint. See, there's power in numbers. There's power in the collective. And the beautiful thing is, we don't have to go march on the street or tie ourselves to trees or sign petitions. If you feel called to that too, it could be part of your calling. But all it's about is seeing each other and giving ourselves permission to be who we are. To say, like, look, maybe you feel deep in you that you're this person, but your ego keeps saying, no, I can't be an angel. No, I can't be magical. No, I can't be gifted. No, I'm not really having prophetic dreams. So I didn't really hear my kids' thought before they said that just then. That can't be true. But to have somebody in front of you who says, yeah, that is true, and I felt that as well, and I see that in you, and I'm sharing in your memory because I'm seeing you for who you are. That is what gives us the confidence to know what we know, to remember what we remember, and to be who we need to be. And so when I ask myself my why, like, why am I doing this? Just teaching people how to be psychic so that they can be psychic for the sake of it. It's like, actually, that's kind of just a small part of what we're actually doing here. What we're actually doing here is creating communities where we make space for this expanse of being we remember ourselves as to exist. Because how does this expanse of being we are, once we remember who we are, what do they do with this? How do they fit into society? How do they live? How do they talk to people or relate to people? We need to take action. We need to live in alignment with our truth. And that's very much related to the throat chakra as well. We can't just speak our truth. That's not enough. We have to live our truth. That's how we move to the 5D. That's how we anchor this into reality. And we do that through expression, we do that through action, and we do that through bearing witness. It's like seeing is believing, and the more people who are able to see what's going on, the more that anchors into society. I've probably been a little bit repetitive about this, but what I am learning through this work that I'm doing is remembering is this beautiful, amazing phenomenon when you remember who you are and the truth of everything. But it's an active effort to keep anchored into this reality. It's so easy to keep forgetting. It's like we go to sleep every night and we go to the truth of our reality in our dreams, and every morning when we wake up again, it starts to slip away. It gets hazier and hazier. And so it's almost the easy part is teaching you how to be psychic and intuitive. It turns out it's not actually that hard, especially with the frequency of the earth going up, and you're all already gifted anyway. If you're drawn to my work, if you see the number 144 or 1111, or if you're a 144,000 light worker, or you're connected to that mission, then you already have these gifts and you've had them the whole time. All I'm doing is helping you pinpoint them and bring them out, right? The hard part is having the confidence and the permission to work that way, to be that way, and to keep allowing the magic to keep flowing through you. So I'm here to help you remember. And I hope that you do remember, and I trust that you do remember. Because I'm remembering, and we're all connected. And maybe you even remember me, and maybe I even remember you. We're remembering together. Give yourself permission to remember, and remember alongside other people. Okay. I've got this coaching program called Crown of Light. You can check it out. And I'm teaching people how to embody their higher self and to channel, right? And it had phenomenal results. People just took off in that group, and they're so talented. And they're taking steps to do something with that. But it's hilariously, it's like the confidence of doing what they do is the issue. So what I've done is I've created this new program called Circle of Light, which is complementary to that. It makes those people I'm working with one-on-one and coaching through this, gives them the space to keep practicing with a group. And not just practice with a group, even though practice is important because our gifts change all the time, right? Sometimes you stop hearing spirit, but then your like intuitive knowing in your body becomes really loud and clear, or you start getting visuals in your mind's eye, but you feel a little bit chaotic when you're reading energy in a clairsentient kind of clair feeling kind of way, right? So practice is really, really important at all stages of our development. But what this group at the Circle of Light space is actually doing is just creating a space for us to bear witness with each other, to say, this is what I did today, and have somebody say, that's really cool, I see that. Or this is what I'm getting from you, and have somebody else say, okay, I'm not sure what that means, but that part made sense. That part felt right. However that felt for you when you gave that message. Keep tuning that dial. Keep feeling into that as you go. And to just have people like validate us or redirect us or whatever, but to just sit there and be like, yeah, I see that. I see you. And maybe saying this will make you feel a little bit less special, but there's nobody who's come to me who hasn't had a gift, who hasn't had some aspect of their soul, some past life wisdom, some overflowing love in their heart that made them supernatural. Everybody has that, and everybody has it in different ways. But if you're drawn to this work, if you're drawn to me, if you're drawn to this video, you are magical, you are psychic, you are supernatural. And it's so much easier to unlock than you think. It's actually kind of scary how easy it is and how much we're all already doing this anyway. The learning part is the permission, and we do that together, okay? So it turns out that my work teaching has always been about just holding up a mirror and just saying, oh yeah, you remember who you are? Cool, yeah, we see that too. See, look in the mirror. And that's all it is. And like attracts like, law of attraction. If you're seeing that in other people, if you see that in me, if you're one of those people who are super nice, and they're like, I see your light, Kelly, you're doing great, which is super, super sweet and hard to receive a lot of the time. But if you're saying to me, I see your light, you get that's because of law of attraction, right? That's because you have that same light and we're part of the same collective, and that's radiating out of you, and you're looking at how you can be in your highest expression too. Okay. I hope that makes sense, and thanks for letting me talk about my work a bit here. It's awkward for me to kind of advertise in a way and talk about what I'm doing, but I'm realizing that in talking about what I'm doing, it's validating for people, and I get to talk about the process of what it's like being in this space. I like giving you behind the scenes looks. I like being able to come to you and say, I thought this was going to happen, but then this happened, but this is really cool too, and maybe this is the direction Spirit wanted to take us in. And I even look back at my, I used to be a creative writing lecturer, and I'd run like media and communication workshops and writing workshops and literature workshops and all that kind of cool stuff. And so often the work is like 50% teaching people how to write and communicate. The other work is teaching people how to do the work, how to show up for the work, how to be present with it, and how to celebrate ourselves as we do this work. Instead of telling people, okay, so, this is how you end a sentence, and this is how you conclude a chapter, and this is how you create, engaging stories, and this is how you do character development, and this is how you do political persuasion, and all this kind of stuff. Like, yeah, there's all those technical elements there, and I'll say this is how we ground, this is how we open our channels, this is how we feel and see information through our heart chakras, this is how we do it. But actually what I'm doing with all these people and coaching them through is saying, you showed up to do a creative writing class. You showed up to learn how to be intuitive. That took a lot of bravery. I'm sure nobody's parents were pressuring them to go into the psychic business. Nobody's mum or dad said, sorry, you can't be an accountant, you have to be a novelist. You have to be an energy reader. You have to be an intuitive in some way. So for you to even show up requires so much bravery, right? And so much self-love. And we can keep working with that. We can keep cultivating that. And the thing about owning who you are and remembering who you are, which is so often angelic, so often these high density, multi-dimensional light beings, right? It's so often who we are. Sometimes it's not, and that's really fun too, and super exciting. But when we remember that and we own that, that requires a real dissolution of your ego. It requires so much self-love and so much humility to get to that point of remembering who you are. Because to say, oh yeah, I'm an angel, there's no way your ego would let you believe that. It's not vanity, it's not narcissism. Your ego cannot get your head around that, right? You have to let go of that to believe and receive that memory. So what we do together is just keep pulling out that love, keep pulling out that self-worth and building that up until we love ourselves enough that we start to remember the absolute truth of all things, which is that we're all God. And that's the fun point that I kind of see as the end game for now. Maybe in a month I'll come back with another update. By getting to see that everybody in your life is God and God giving love to you, and that you are also God giving love to everybody else in the world. And that's a really fun game to play. That's a really fun theatre because we get to just keep sharing love. You know, if you've seen Bruce Almighty, you know how Morgan Freeman morphs and he's the homeless person. But Morgan Freeman is everybody in that movie. God is everyone, just playing all these games. And so you get to play as God. You get to go, I'm going to send love here and abundance here. And you get a car and you get a car. And let's all offer each other grace and forgiveness and mercy and love and abundance and empowerment together. Because if you got to sit down with God, wouldn't you? And you can do that with the person sitting right next to you. Okay. I hope some of that made sense. Hopefully this is a transmission and you're feeling what I'm communicating and it's not just the mad ramblings of someone who's been meditating a lot and is a little bit detached from the 3D matrix. But yeah, it's a very happy place to be, however mad it looks. We're all a little mad here anyway, right? Okay. So I'm going to shush for a bit. I'm wishing you all a beautiful, loving, restful day and night. And may your memories come back in the most satisfying, peaceful, nourishing, fulfilling ways. Until next time.